I'm so excited to introduce our three speakers, Erin Douglas of Bayern Botanicals, Carrie Freeman of Second Views, and Cynthia Schultz of Bradbury Stamp Construction. They're each at unique stages of the certification process, from the initial stages of certification to just having certified to having achieved recertification. So it's a really great mix of perspectives. Erin has been working with Bayern Botanicals since 2013. She's also the co-founder of the nonprofit Learn to Grow Lead and the United States director of the Helpers Farm in Ghana, Africa. She had always wanted to work for a certified B corporation, and she describes the experience of championing Bayern Botanicals through the certification process as the most meaningful work of her life. Carrie is a pioneer in innovation ecosystems. She's an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur, and she has worked to forward the causes of circular and inclusive innovation on a global stage. As managing partner of Second Muse, she is responsible for the overall strategic direction and management of the global company, which builds economies of the future. Carrie played a vital role in the successful B Corp recertification of Second Muse. Cynthia is the CEO of Bradbury Stamp Construction, Incorporated, which is currently the largest contractor in New Mexico. The company has grown by a factor of 4 since the Great Recession, with a focus on having the best people for complex projects, a flexible approach to adjust with the market, and a long-term perspective on the reputation of the company. Cynthia is an active member on a number of boards with a focus on improving New Mexico through economic development and healthcare. She's also a lead accredited professional with the firm, completing more than $80 million in lead projects last year alone. Cynthia is in the beginning stages of B Corp certification with Bradbury Stamp. We are going to begin the session by asking each of our speakers to give a summary of their journeys through the certification process. Then we're going to outline various stages of the certification process, including an overview of all of the steps to go through, tips for how to gain momentum within your company, how to navigate the B impact assessment, the timing of the certification, lessons learned, and the recertification process. We will conclude with an open discussion to elicit questions from all of you. Now each of our panelists is going to describe their certification journey experience. We will start with Cynthia. She's in the beginning stages of that. I guess you don't have to. Okay, sorry. Actually.
Yeah, all right. So the Bradbury Stamp by New Mexico standards is really old and relatively big, even though in New Mexico that doesn't really mean we're really a big company. We're really much more like a medium-sized family company. And I can say both those things because we're always in the top 10 for those. And so we've been around for 96 years. And I credit that with always having had a long-term game, which I think is a lot of what kind of the mayor was talking about and so forth. It's not just about the company. If that's all you're thinking about, or profits or whatnot, you're not going to be here for the next 4 generations. I mean, it's just the reality. And so that's kind of always been our approach to how you did business. And for a long time, it went back to, in kind of closely held companies, you know, the owner, right? And we had an amazing owner in Bob Stamp, who everyone in this community knew was incredibly generous, always did the right thing, all those kinds of things. This community's grown a lot over the last 10 years. And it used to be, you know, when I was a kid, I was incredibly proud of this company. Everyone knew them. And then I started going to things, people would be like, what's that carrot on your logo? Or what do you guys do? Who are you? All those kinds of things. It's shifted. It's a bigger community, and you can't just rely on that. And we're not a go out there and overly market. You know, we only have like 20 clients a year. They're just big institutional clients. And so it's one reason why this really interested me, because you kind of need that stamp, if that makes sense. You know, some third party, I'm not going to come and say, hey, we're a great company. I'd much rather prove to you that we're a great company. Same thing like how we approach work. I can't ask someone to give me their job. I can ask, I will compete for your job, and we'll do a great job. And that's just kind of how we are. And so that was a lot of the attraction. So back in 2014, I was at some conference, I can't even remember which one, and someone mentioned BCorp. And I didn't know anything about it, and you're here at a conference, you get to just worry about the company and do fun stuff. So I went ahead and kind of started looking at the assessment, et cetera. And then also over that time period, we did a couple projects with Positive Energy, which were kind of government contracts where they kind of needed our capacity, and Bonnie, we needed their enthusiasm and solar, and we got to work with them as well. And so at that time, I didn't really do much with it, except that we were kind of redoing our handbook. I used some of the resources out of it, which is one of the kind of the cool things. If you go through the questions, they'll have, explain this, how did other companies do this, just give you an idea, oh, there's an organization that does whatever, you can kind of go look it up. And so I wouldn't say there's a huge time commitment going through that initial assessment, because I wasn't taking like crazy serious, it was more just kind of check it out. What I did also decide after that was to actually certify us as a women-owned business. And that's probably something that's always warning, any certification is more complicated than you think. And we're very clearly a women-owned business, it was all the paperwork. Had I read our bylaws, they were written in 1969, had anyone else read them, all this kind of stuff, and I was shocked at how thorough that organization was. It's only like $1,000 to certify with a women-owned business. I don't know how they can do it because they spent so long checking every I, dot, making sure I had our paperwork and capacity. Anyway, so we did kind of do that. And then over the last few years, I've been trying to find more ways to do things. Again, we were an incredibly philanthropic company through the ownership, kind of changing it to more inclusive of the employees, those kinds of things, having it again, kind of going from a more patriarchal world to this kind of more, and I've done quite a few of those things. And so more recently when I went up to Taos, and so we've also been fortunate, we're working for Taos Ski Valley, which also kind of made me kind of go, oh, I should look at this again. And went to their event, and wow, these things are energizing. It's exciting. I worked really hard on it for like the following month. And then we're kind of looking at, it gets hard because it's that full-time component or whatnot. And so where we're at is we've done the initial, I've already done some of the backup, it's the measurement component, these are a lot of things we're all doing, right? We actually have to kind of prove it. And so sitting down and actually doing that is always the challenge. And actually some things have done better than they thought. Like, I'll be honest, I was looking waste and some of those things, and I was thinking, oh gosh, we aren't really tracking this at all. Oh shoot, we're tracking it way more of our projects than I appreciated once I kind of got our engineers together, and part of it is because a lot of them are on LEAP projects, they're just doing the same thing that they do on a LEAP project on their other projects, etc. And so kind of getting them excited, it was like, oh, this will be, some of these things might be easier than initially I thought, and then other things are going to be harder to actually prove or decide, and it was probably the best thing we finally did is I just went through and marked a whole bunch of the questions, just not us, right? Or this isn't even where I don't even want to read it again just because it doesn't fit with us, or oh my gosh, that hurdle is so far in another realm, etc. Or it just doesn't apply to our industry or something like that. And then it kind of distilled it down to something really workable, if that makes sense.
Can we ask questions? I wasn't here for the meeting. I was just gonna ask, one thing that I still wanted to ask the first morning panel was, like, what does applying look like? Is it like a 20-page thing that you're talking about? It's like, so you wanna be a B Corp and
Well, and Erin's gonna go into a lot more detail, but it's an online portal with all the questions, and they're dynamic. And I think that was something that I didn't realize exactly initially. It's not quite a, if I do this, I get 1 point. Because it's kind of interrelated, like, because there can be 4 questions that kind of relate, so it interrelates, etc. But there's a nice online portal where you can go through and you can just mark the answers. And literally, you could sit down in 2 hours and do it. If you just quickly don't overthink about it, like, oh my gosh, I know I'm paying people at least that, or what, and you just kind of go through. But that's not where you really get the value, that's kind of just an initial, what is it? And it's really looking at the background for the questions that I found really helpful.
should we go in this order or?
Sure.
Okay, we'll go in this order to make it easy for you all. I'm Erin Douglas, and today I hold the title of Corporate Responsibility Manager at Bhindi Botanicals. We're an Ayurvedic herbal supplements company here in Albuquerque that we've been in business for 23 years. I actually work in our Oregon office. Erin Johnson, my colleague, say hello. She's
the other Erin.
Yeah, Team Erin, we call ourselves. She's also on our social environmental responsibility team and really is our lead in Albuquerque. But what I want to share with you is that when in the B Lab world and B Corp world, they use this word called champion. And when Aaron and I, we were in Oregon and driving to one of our partner vendor farms, and I pitched to our leadership team, we were all in the car, let's become a certified B Corp. And I would call myself a champion at that point. And as I was introduced, I have a nonprofit and I really want to be of service in this world and make my time here on this planet very valuable. And I saw B Corp certification as a way to do that. And I like to use the word kind because it's really a way of really activating kindness in your business. And so in that car ride, I convinced our leadership team, it was really just our director of operations who's here in Albuquerque, our CEO, Kevin Casey, who's in Ashland with me, and Aaron Johnson, and I convinced the team, yeah, we're gonna do this. And we didn't really know what it would entail. It's a lot of hard work, as I think Kim said, like, holy shit, that's how we felt a lot of times, like this is the real deal, this is rigorous, and it really proves that you're walking your talk, and at least, and that you're committed to continuing to improve. And so I just wanted to make sure that y'all know that I'm not an academic, I'm not even on our leadership team, and yet I championed our team through the assessment, and so it really takes someone on the team that's committed and passionate and that can really drive it along. And so we really have prepared a nice presentation for you, and I think we'll answer a lot of your questions along the way, and we want it to be very practical for you, so definitely ask questions.
Great, so we are the youngest company and the longest certified of the three, or the longest in this journey. Second Muse has been around for almost 11 years now, and we do global work. We were formed with a focus on being mission driven and really creating a much more prosperous world. I learned about B Corp probably right when it started. I actually, I'm gonna call out Dr. Jean Roston over there, who is actually my MBA advisor from Anderson, and was really focused on responsible business back in the mid-90s, and got my MBA. And so this whole notion around using business as a force for good has been something that I've had for quite a long time, and did study from an academic perspective, at least in my undergraduate and graduate program. And then we decided that it was something that we were kind of we wanted to be able to demonstrate that we're walking our talk. And so we got certified, we started the certification process in 2015 and got certified in 2016. And so we've also recertified. And for us, it's the best demonstration of really what it is to mean business as a force for good. We do a lot of work in the nonprofit space, and it helps set us apart as well from organizations that are for-profit that are also in this space. So.
Okay, great. So I think we're gonna start off with our presentation, and Erin is going to start by
Yes, sure.
You ready? Okay. Starting with the steps to certification.
So I should say that I swiped a lot of this content from the wonderful bcorporation.net website, and these are screenshots and not necessarily my work. So beautiful graphics here to help out. But starting at the top, and please chime in, right? I'll take the lead here. Knowing your business case, your why, and I think we've heard from each other our whys, and also for Banyan. When I started at Banyan, I saw all of our beautiful pillars, our values, and I said, well, how do we do that? How do we bring it to life? And so in that car ride, we were like, we want to really prove that we're walking our talk, and we want to bring our values to life. That was our business case, really. That was the number one reason we decided that we're going to at least start certification and commit to the assessment and then reevaluate. I think it's really important, like we said, to get leadership buy-in, and we did that in the car ride. And actually, for Banyan, I sat down with our CEO, and we were the ones that did most of the assessment the initial time. anything to add here?
We've got a lot of slides.
Yeah, we got a lot of slides, we're gonna, listen, yes, so we'll
So we will chime in, not to worry, but we have a lot of slides.
And so, okay, the next branch here is to measure your impact. And so just to reintroduce this concept, the BIA stands for the Impact Assessment. And that's the assessment that's 200 questions long. It's, we're gonna go into more details, but it is dynamic, and there's about 78 different versions depending on where your business is located, the size of your company, and your industry sector. So we'll go into more details, and I think we'll probably answer some of the questions. I know you'll probably go into your head right now. So you'll complete the assessment, you'll meet the requirements, which is 80 points minimum to certify, and that's a journey just to get to that point. You'll finalize your legal structure and submit for verification, and then you'll be assigned a B Lab analyst to work with you, and they go through documentation review and interviews. And then they also, I believe they actually do on-site reviews with 10% of certified B Corps. I don't believe any of us probably have a site review on site, but it is pretty rigorous. Yeah, so the little checkbox here, you articulate the business case, engage your leadership and board, very important to get that buy-in, because it does take a tremendous amount of time and energy. Then you're gonna complete the BIA, complete the legal requirement, and then go through the verification process. And we're gonna go into these in more detail. Yes. All right. I'm just gonna read this here. The B Corp certification process is highly comprehensive and requires support from people across your company, probably every department lead. Here are some ways that your business can find value. So this is really building your business case, and we heard a lot about that in the presentation earlier. But some of the value is joining the B Corp community. I'll just say that I was just at the B Corp retreat conference a few weeks ago in LA. I see Emily out there who I met. I met Garima. There's Garima and Dawn. So I'll even say I was rubbing elbows with David from Dr. Bronner's, the CEO. Hanging out with legal team from Patagonia. It was really exciting, and that's I think the icing on the cake, not the reason to do it, but the icing on the cake, this like-minded community. And next, just attracting talent, building culture. That's one of the pieces. We can probably get into that a little bit later. Education. To me, I think the number one value for Banyan was just benchmarking our social and environmental impact and learning along the way. That it's an incredibly rich educational tool, the assessment, and it's free. So that was really the number one reason for us why we decided to certify, and I think probably the place I would start at making the business case. If those, and again, it has to be in alignment with your values. I think someone asked a question out in the audience, how do you convince those that are not really bought in yet? And I almost wouldn't even go there. It's like I wouldn't try to convince anybody. You really have to be committed from the start. So and then
if you don't already see the value, then
I'm gonna jump in there, Erin. I actually say it's just good business, right? When people are like, I'm not really into the social and environmental, drive, I'm like, awesome, but are you into good business, right? Are you into having a good profitable business that your employees are happy about, that your community's about? Then this is a good benchmarking tool for you. So yeah, I am probably swinging much more on the, hard corporate business side of, it's just good business. So that would be my guidance to anyone who's kind of saying, I'm not so sure about it. I don't think it takes people who are deeply committed to all of these things, but they're committed to being a very good business. Which is what I kind of feel like you were coming from, right? We're just good business.
No, absolutely, and I think this attract talent, build culture, that's a real impetus, frankly, for me to actually do it now. And it's not really to attract by being a B Corp, it's more just because we've been in an expanding market. I've increased our benefits dramatically, all kinds of things. And that's where the world put, oh my gosh, there's so many things you can do, right? I'm willing to go ahead and put money behind it or whatnot, but it's like getting focused. Does that make sense? And that's what's really been helpful to me, kind of going through the, okay, I could do this or I could do that. Well, this one gets me a point. It's not just about the point, but it's also hopefully someone sat down and thought about why that should be worth a point, why maybe this is a better use of your funds or how your healthcare should be structured or whatnot. It just gives me some sort of, because it's really hard and that's probably been a challenge in my vendors. And again, we have about 181 employees in 3 states. So it's a little bit more complicated and they run the gamut. We've got field hourly staff that still make very good money all the way to professionals. And none of them were familiar with BCorp at all, right? And so I'd be sitting there kind of having to guide them, ask the questions, come up with the creative ideas, et cetera. But for me, that's been reason to kind of do it now. I'm already doing all these things and I could see, wow, we're really good in this area. Maybe we should really look at the whole thing and I could actually say it. It's really nice to say, we have great health benefits. But I wanna be able to back it up a little bit. And it's been frustrating because there isn't a lot of good data on that. I mean, my broker can stand up and say, no one else is doing this. But I wanna be able to prove it.
So you related to David's thing about, we were already doing some of these things, so it was
Yeah.
nice to finally have some.
And it's nice to have a framework.
Yeah.
It just makes it easier. Constraints, we all like, being free, but there's something about having a constraint to actually focus you and get something done.
It's benchmarks, it's standards, right?
Yeah.
You meet the standards, and that's the beauty of standards, you actually have something to guide your business on. Oh, sorry, go on, Erin, didn't mean to jump in on you, but I think it's important to get different perspectives, that's why we're a panel.
Just ask a quick question to build on that. How much do you think making the long-term business case versus the short-term business case plays into getting that kind of buy-in? Because that's something I hear a lot, is like, well, all these measures sound great, but that's gonna cost us money and we're already struggling. That certification's not for me.
Well, I'd also say it's 200 points, or it's actually more than that, because each industry assessment, and we wouldn't be doing it except fortunately there's one for construction, because we're unique too. There's a lot of points, and that's where I was kind of saying, you can kind of go through and go like, we just can't do these things, we're not at that place, we're not, all those kinds of things. And I think you can kind of focus a little bit and still be able to do it, but you have to balance.
What was your question exactly?
Well, I guess
building
the
the
question is
business
just underpinning all of this, how much do you think that there needs to be this long-term is the long-term business case the one that wins out, versus the short-term, like financial, quarterly statement case, for example, that
Well, I think that's
as a
the
business.
whole, I think that's the whole point of looking at like public benefit corporation and benefit corporation is looking beyond a quarterly financials process, right? I mean, that's the whole end game, I think, when you're looking at businesses and using business as a force for good, whether you're going to be certification route or you're just going, looking at, what is the role of business? If the role of business is to actually provide more benefits to more stakeholders, including the public, then you're looking at a longer term, right? So I don't know if that's what you're asking for. I mean, at the end of the day, if your end game is only financials, then your justification for your business case may be a little bit trickier. Doesn't mean it's not possible, it's just a little bit trickier, right? I mean, there's plenty of companies who focus in on, like if you look at the big corporations, there's plenty of them that also have to meet rigorous, financial returns as well. So if you look at like Danone and some of the Unilever brands, right, they are really kind of held to what the market is expecting of them, as well as what they're signed up to do in terms of B Corp certification. So.
Question?
Going back, just seeing before the assessments, you mentioned that your charter had been updated or was 1969. So from a legal aspect, to be able to be considered for B Corp certification, how did you have to change your charter to?
Well, again, we haven't actually submitted yet, just for the record.
Okay.
Our goal is first quarter next year. Initially, I was gonna try to get it done this year, and we aren't gonna make it. And I also kind of, as I learned more about, and maybe this is kind of a learning thing, there's kind of 3 things when you go into it. There's kind of your current status, and then there's stuff that goes off your prior year financials, and then there's stuff that can kind of be a rolling
following year is kind of my understanding, and so finally I was like, we'll just use this year's numbers and it will be cleaner. And sorry, I lost your question in there.
So what changes are you gonna have to make to your charter
Oh,
to be?
well, one nice thing, we're still a privately held closed company, so I can go change it very, very easily, but we will have to incorporate a statement about sustainability and our commitment to the greater good, et cetera. That, from my perspective, shouldn't be a major deal. It's not like we have to go to boards of directors, and that's where it gets more complicated with bigger companies, et cetera. Yeah, but the women, I mean, there's typos in it, that have been there since 1969, not every one of them, and so forth. So that was just kind of interesting, things I hadn't honestly had to think about just coming into a company that's already up and running. And these would be much easier things, I think, for a startup, if you just start going from that and using those templates going forward.
For Banyan Botanicals, we amended, we're an LLC, privately held, and we just amended our operating agreement. And B-Lab has some guidance on how to do that. So I think there's several different ways on how you can achieve that piece of the puzzle, and some support online, there's some good resources.
Same.
All right, so moving on to the last bullet here, another benefit is that protect mission through capital raises and leadership changes. Does anyone have examples on that or anything to add?
We have said that if we at some point are looking at any form of acquisition, that we're currently an LLC. And while we've got multiple entities, but our entity that got certified is out of Nevada. And so we have said that if we were to go get any form of investment, or probably more along the lines of acquisition, we would actually change it to go towards a C Corp and make sure that we are a public benefit. Or if New Mexico gets it, or if for some reason Nevada, however we cross it, our intent would be that we would make sure to do the mission lock from a legal perspective. Before, at least a year or so, a year to 18 months before we would even start to consider any sort of additional investment. So we are very well aware of that and have researched it and talked to various attorneys.
Cynthia, quick question, did you apply then to become a B Corp through Colorado or Delaware or?
We're based here in New Mexico.
But don't you have, since we don't have B Corp,
Well,
oh, that's why you're not.
B Corp is a certification. It actually isn't right now illegal
Right.
to change your corporation
So you
status.
mean public benefit corporation?
Yeah, so right now I'm just talking about the B Corp
Okay.
certification.
I think we're all talking about that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little weird because they
Public
call it
benefit.
corporation. I mean, kind of,
Right.
it's corp. It implies corporation, but it's actually not.
And it's my understanding that once, if it's passed to the Public Benefit Corporation here in New Mexico, then B Corps are required to become a public benefit corporation. But now they're amending your operating agreement, and it's more about that process.
C Corps. The legal aspect is worth delving into and complicated.
I'll just give one quick story on this leadership change piece at Banyan. We have some relatively new leadership over the 23 years. And a couple weeks ago, we actually participated in the climate strike. We offered that option to employees to go out and participate. And it's my hunch and strong hunch that our CEO made that announcement because he had felt more confident and protected to really share that with employees, and that a year ago, when we became certified this spring, that we probably wouldn't have participated, he wouldn't have felt confident enough that he, so it really gives him, I think, the confidence to really lead from a mission driven place. So that was pretty nice to witness, yeah. I think you were gonna take this one, Cynthia.
Okay, well, a couple of the things, so, again, I haven't been through it yet. But what I did start doing was, I guess I'd say it's like kind of like a soft launch, right? Just kind of starting to talk about it a little bit more. Construction's a pretty traditional field. I don't think our company really is. I grew up in a very different perspective just because we had a lot of women in the company and all those kinds of things. But
and we're kind of traditionalists, and so, kind of talking about it, and I didn't want it to come across like we're pandering to the millennials. I hate to say that. Sometimes, like, some of the initiatives lately, like, when you talk to people, it's like millennials, it's like, oh my God, can we just and so we kind of did that. I think probably one of my sort of mistakes a little bit, I'm working on, so the area that we were actually very low on is the environmental. And it's because honestly, we're not a manufacturer. We have a shocking amount of waste. It's actually one reason why I kind of like came back from the house. There was, I can't remember the name of the company, but there's a company there recycling the excess fish scales into something, going to all this energy, and I'm thinking how many tons of waste come off our job sites a day. And it kind of was just that reiterate, we can do more. We're doing some of the recycling, some of that stuff, but we could probably concentrate on it. So I came back and was trying not to, because I didn't want it all to be distracted. Like, we're doing this because Cynthia wants us to go be a B Corp, right? Like let's see if we can get a little bit more buy-in on that. And I was really excited at how excited. So project engineers are, they're kind of like they're millennials right now, because they're the younger folks as they kind of go through to be a project manager, superintendent. And they all kind of started getting, and I was shocked because they just kind of ran with it. Doing meeting minutes and all this stuff, but probably the mistake a little bit, getting to the point where we can actually use that data, is not giving them more guidelines out of the actual certification. Does that make sense? So that's now kind of like our next step, because they did a lot of great energy, but I can't really translate that into the thing. But it was good energy, et cetera, and we're going in the right direction, and we'll get there. We fortunately already surveyed our employees. We actually just did another survey, so I was able to ask a few questions, like, again, kind of, and that's why it's hard to do it just all at once, like, the answers to things, but you can't prove it. And I'm very into, I wanna make sure we rigorously can prove things. And so I do highly recommend that, and trying to get folks involved. And again, we're a big distributed workforce, kind of all over the state, a lot of rural areas as well. And so, unfortunately, communication, I can't have one-on-one really easily with everyone. And we also have a language barrier for a lot of our staff. And so, trying to work through all that has been interesting. And the field will be the hard component for us. It is hard. I mean, everyone kind of talks about how open to be with the assessment. We pulled in a smart sheet, which is just a program where you can kind of track things kind of like Excel, but you can attach things, you can assign people lines so they can update it and so forth. And a little bit of a challenge for me has been just so much of it has, the backup has, information you don't just want everyone necessarily seeing, especially when you get to the worker side and so forth, and working through all that. I wish I had realized sooner that I could pull the assessment out and really play with it outside of the system. They try to make the system really robust and they'll go through it. But for me, it was just like daunting constantly on the website. And
So do you mean you kind of just like printed it and then you're like, let me just know
yeah,
what it is?
stick it in a binder and have it as a normal looking spreadsheet where I can kind of play with it, prioritize, and then try to distribute it out of there. Here's these 5 questions that I know, Jim, you have an opinion on, et cetera. And then it's time though. And I want everyone to think like, you have to have like 3 people committed for like a year. I don't think it's like that. It's just, it's like every other initiative you have in a company, right? You gotta stay on top of it for a prolonged period, and that takes energy and time to do. If you could just put everything on hold for a week, you could probably knock it out and get it done, no problem, but most of us can't.
Hey, Cynthia, you identified recycling, something you guys are focusing on. Is there anything else that you realize are obstacles you've got to overcome if you're gonna get that certification?
I don't know if those are like obstacles, like my initial, and we have some advantages, because we are women owned, and we got some of the points pretty easily, I would say, and then again, my concentration definitely on the workers. I've definitely done some things going into next year for our benefits that will really maximize those points. The area that was depressing to me is probably more what I'd say, like we can get over the 80 points, I'm pretty confident, but it was the environmental, and talk about a business that has an environmental impact. It's also challenging though, because we don't control our supply chain. Every building project is a whole new group of people, new subs, new material suppliers, and so that's been a challenge, and it's just something we needed to talk about more. You know, I think everyone feels like we're doing way more than we used to do, but we're really not focused on doing the best we can. We're doing kind of what's required on some of our projects.
What were some of the benefits that were easy to just?
I think we'll get to some of that, yeah, maybe we'll keep on moving.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I meant to her workers specifically on what you said, that you incorporated certain benefits that gave
I
you
mean, there's
more.
certain things like, are you paying 80% of healthcare premiums or whatever? And some of those, I might have been paying more than that, but I was contributing to the HSA doing like 4 or 5 different things, right? Which also confused everybody, so it's like, okay, well, let's do this, and those kinds of things, which were relatively easy and sometimes cost neutral, it was just figuring it out.
I have a question for you, Cynthia, too. Is it something that you can't control in your industry where you can have the exact same supply chain? Or is it something you could work towards? I know it's like, okay, we have this massive project, I know I can work with these people, to get the steel or to get the wood, or whatever.
There's a little bit of that, but take this building right here, this is comparable to things that we would build. This is a $30-some million project. There's an architect, they specs, Emily just left, do a lot with their repair stuff at TD. They'll do specifications, there's requirements, we have to hire companies that work within the public framework. All those kinds of things, it's very hard to totally control them. And in our market, honestly, New Mexico is a very small market, which is great. And it is changing a lot. I mean, there's a ton of transitions in companies, which is kind of an aspect of all of this. And it's a reason why I think there's more energy and interest and all those things. Because construction's a family business. I mean, they're all family businesses. And which is one of the fascinating things to me, because I'm always like, and I know all those families had daughters and they're somewhere, there's still a very small percentage of it. But it's working that way, and over time, I think we're gonna see more and more of the subcontractors carrying and so forth, but like material, go buy the elevators, they show up in whatever packaging, they're gonna show up. I mean, you can't tell those guys to do anything, so it's that kind of aspect, and it's not always consistent. Long term, you can look at all those things, I mean, when she was talking about like carbon, oh my gosh, I can't even start to really assess that without just doing a guesstimate based on it.
I'm gonna chime in real quick, we do have a lot of slides, some of these slides might be you can kind of read them, so I'll post them to the website, so all of you can have access to them, so where you RSVP'd on the Anderson website. So if we can skip through some of these that might be self-evident, and then just maybe focus on the ones we need more explanation or questions regarding it. So.
I know you were taking a picture, sorry. Well, this, just a real quick overview of the last 2 slides, the BIA, the B Impact Assessment, and it includes questions from all these different sections: workers, governance, customers, community, and environment. And so I'll just move on through this, and maybe, at some point during this presentation, we can give some examples of areas that our companies have improved upon. So two approaches for completing the B Impact Assessment. Really, so you can convene a team, which we kind of did at Banyan, we did. So you're gonna identify the right people. You're definitely gonna need to leverage human resources, operations, finance, all of that. And then you'll wanna set up meetings in a timeline. One of the things I think is tricky about this assessment, and Aaron Johnson and I just had an audit for a fair trade audit yesterday for certification, and with that certification, you're given a deadline. With this certification, there's no deadline, so you can decide, hey, we've got other priorities. In fact, it took us 2.5 years to certify. We went at it so slow, and we didn't have someone in my position as I've carved out for myself now, but we just didn't have it. So, and still today, I'm also doing marketing, so it's a challenge when you don't have a deadline. So if you schedule regular meetings, you'll probably get there quicker and just make it a priority and have it on your leadership team meeting to make it a priority and do regular check-ins.
Erin, can you and Carrie tell us how many employees you have?
We have probably 65 employees across 2 offices and a couple remote employees.
We have about the same. We have 4 legal entities across the globe and about 9 different offices. And so pulling all of that data is a challenge. I think one of the big things about spreading it out is that a lot of these, almost all these questions have a time frame, right? In the last 12 months or in the, in the last calendar year, what were your numbers? So the longer you wait and the further you spread it out, you start getting a mixed match of data and you're like, oh wait a minute here. Oh wait, I did this and I went and looked at it, 9 months ago, and now the time has lapsed, so I'm gonna have to go do it again. And if you're tracking the data, but it just takes more time to go back. So there's something about, it's lag time and data kind of falls off the longer you take, so.
Yeah, that was one of the things we weren't fully aware of either.
Yeah.
So it's the you're answering questions on the calendar year, the previous calendar year. And so that can get very confusing, so you should give yourself, a deadline of at least, a maximum of a year if you can to complete. So this other piece here, this other piece is the necessary documents that you'll want to have. And I didn't know any of this when we started, and it was quite overwhelming. So if you can come, print all this stuff out and then bring it to the table when you open and set up the assessment, I think you'll find it's very practical to have all these things. We already covered this, but there's 200 questions, more than 70 different versions. You can export it. You can export it to a Smartsheet or perhaps a Google spreadsheet. And again, what makes it dynamic and interesting is you might answer a question one way, and then it will take you down, it'll open up another window of questions that won't be on that exported sheet. So the exported sheet could change. So that's just something else to
Yeah,
keep
a lot
in
of the time we'll have the one open and then we'll play with the other one, like, oh, if we do this, how does it change points or whatnot?
So there's some really great tools within the assessment that you should be aware of, and I'll chime in on that. But there are many tabs within each question. So this green box here is an example of a question. And across the top, there'll be several tabs. One of them is the explain this. So that provides definitions and rationale for why the practice is deemed important, and that's really useful. And it might also provide specific instructions to help you answer the question accurately. But a lot of times you're trying to guess what things mean, so that's a very useful tab. They'll have a show example where they actually give an example of a business and how they implemented that question or that topic, so that it shows in practice what a company is doing. So that's also another really useful tab. And then there's in practice, and there's some B-Lab has made some best practice guides. And so those are listed in that tab. And then there's a star, an actual star shape, where you can click that and add it to your improvement report. So there's all kinds of reports too on the main page of the hub that you can print and look at later. So that's helpful. And then the bookmark question, you can revisit it. So I think a lot of us would recommend that. You can get really stuck in one question, and it can take you, weeks sometimes if you don't just breeze through it. So if it's something you can't answer, bookmark it and keep hustling through the assessment and try to get through those 200 questions is I think, a good practical tip.
There's a lot of great tools that B-Lab has provided and information.
We heard this already, but it is like the gold standard. It's super rigorous, so be prepared for that. A lot of times companies don't make the 80-point threshold. We didn't at first, well, we thought we did, and then when we had our first analyst call, we were reclassified a little bit and given like 20 more points. And that was a little deflating, so it's good to know that and expect these things to happen. And then from that point, we're in this pivotal phase. Okay, so what are our next steps and how are we gonna get there? And I think we covered this earlier, but top common changes companies will need to make to certify to formalize policies. Handbook is a big one. The workers section I would recommend starting with that section. It's a little bit easier and actually you can start to engage your employees through that process. So really paying attention to the handbook. Again, we talked about the mission aligned governance structure, but that's a way to earn quick points, 5 to 7.5 points, which is quite a good chunk. And then supply chain is a big area in the community section where you'll wanna kind of prep for all that and understand who your top suppliers are. And then again, we talked about tracking metrics, like that's kind of it's a good place to start if you're not tracking your energy use, if you're not tracking your volunteer hours, like start tracking those things. It's just a great practice. Anything else to add?
I think, yeah, the first thing is formalizing, and then formalizing policies and then tracking. And I think when you start getting more advanced is whenever you start making goals to all of those. Hey, we're going to reduce this, we're going to improve this. So the first thing is just, it's really, that's kind of why I say it's good business anyway, alright? Having good robust policies and having good measurement systems in place is actually just good business, right? And then putting goals to them. And it's hard when you're small, or when you're big and complex.
Yeah.
It's just hard.
Okay, so we have a few more minutes. I don't know if there's any more points we wanna try to hit on, or if there's any burning questions from the audience that anyone would like to ask.
How small can a business be and still be in support?
One
You-
person.
yeah. One person, yeah. We have a very small company in New Mexico that has been for quite a long time.
I would say too, it really, I'm helping my boyfriend, my partner to certify. He's one person, but he works with a lot of subcontractors. And we do that it's really, he's not quite able to certify. I have another friend that's doing
Because of metrics or because?
yeah, like he just wasn't able to hit the 80 points.
Oh, okay.
So there's other things he's doing, like becoming 1% for the planet certified. But he's never intending to hire full-time workers and he only wants to hire subcontractors and not pay benefits for his model, and that just makes sense for him. So it's not for everybody, just keep that in mind. But he uses this tool and it's been incredibly valuable. Like he's already implemented so many new practices and started measuring his, his waste and whatnot. So, but then I have another friend that's a consultant, and as long as you intend to do these things, you can build out your employee handbook as if you are a 5-person team. And you can earn those points, is my understanding. So this slide is a verification slide, so once you enter the verification process and you submit your assessment, this is what it looks like. And my understanding is, it's a little bit new, but you're assigned a cohort or a group of people that you'll be going through the verification process with, a similar business type. And then you'll be uploading your documentation to the actual assessment in the digital assessment. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I have just a quick question about how you get certified in terms of who are the people who do the certification? Is it like an audit to be sure that the numbers that you put in your application are accurate, or does it go beyond that? Is it like consulting or something like that, which would be more expensive?
Yeah, we can take that. Do you wanna start?
Sure. I don't know the exact number, so B Lab actually does the certification. So you submit everything online, and then you're working with an analyst, and then they come in and they do audit. Kim, what percentage of questions get audited? Is it
It's typically 10 to 20%, and it's usually questions that are super high point scoring, meaning they're really meaty and important to your certification, and they're more like, they have, I don't know what the word is, materiality to your business. They don't go through everything, it would just bog us down and not make it possible, but it's more about, it's a verification process. We've had very few cases of fraud or people misrepresenting themselves, but a few, and that's kind of what they're trying to uncover. And they're trying to make sure you haven't missed points or that you haven't overstated something or misunderstood a question. Those are the kinds of like nuanced things that they do, and they ask for documentation of about, so most of the things that you report, like your pay structure and that kind of thing, could have paperwork that you could provide to verify it, and so you provide that in advance of the calls that you have with the auditors.
So is this something that a certified public accountant would do, or Can I become a certifier by taking a training, and so then I'm the person that does the actual?
Yeah, we don't have something like that, like Leeds has, accredited professionals who go through training. We have a team that we've built out within the body of the nonprofit, what's now called the Standards Trust, it's a 501c3. And they're just all trained around the deep details of what it means to build a good business. And so they're typically in their 20s and 30s, but they're super smart, impact focused. No, it's not an age thing, it's just, it's super in the weeds details, and they have to have the relationship skills to get on a call with a CEO or, director of impact to ask hard questions about their business and not be afraid to question things.
It feels like you're going through a financial audit, though, right?
Yes.
Can you please provide X, Y, Z, right?
We try to do it politely, but sometimes.
I know. But some of them are easy, like on the recertification, I remember one was like, can you please send us your org chart? It's like, well, Kate laughed, she's like, actually, that's more complicated than it sounds. Okay. But anyway, some of them are much easier, it felt like, than others, where it's like, oh my goodness, there's a whole bunch of stuff I have to share. So, I think we have time for one more question.
Yeah, so just going back, as you mentioned, with one person company, you can get certified, but it also sounded like if you use contractors and go through the certification process, you might not be able to get to the 80 points because of the type of business you have. Is that true or?
I think, I just wanna clarify, there are different ways that you can get points, you don't have to answer, I think it's good to know this, like at Banyan, we also put the most of the questions on the environmental session, questions on the assessment on hold for this year. And so we're gonna be looking at our carbon mapping this year. And so to answer your question, you don't have to earn points, big points in all areas.
Right.
I just think it for him, we had answered 70% of the questions and he was at like 30 points. So we deemed that it probably wasn't something he could do with his business. Yeah. Does that answer your question? So
Yeah, so it kind of sounds like
it wasn't that you're
given your
omitted.
type of business, you might not be able to get to 80 points because you can't cover enough of the areas to get the 80 points.
It's not a perfect science, but actually the way that the point scoring is structured is to try and make it possible for any business,
Right.
no matter what sector they're in or what size
Okay.
they're in, to reach the standard that is best in class for their sector and their type of business. So your assessment would look very different than a
Right.
consumer goods products company,
Yeah.
And when you get to the end of it, the system will produce a report for you that says, improve my score, and it'll show you the most high point scoring things you could do. High point scoring meaning meaningful, there are
Right,
changes to your business that would be positively impactful on the community that, usually like sole proprietors, they don't have staffs, they don't have employment things, but how do you think about your contracting? Do you prioritize B-Corps and other mission-driven companies? Do you try to give back to your community in meaningful ways? Do you, who is the recipient of your consultancy? Do you have a type of customer base that has a social good embedded, or those kinds of questions?
Can I ask one?
Do you have time for one more?
Yeah, we can go up to 11:40.
11:40? Oh, okay, excellent, so maybe a few more questions.
One real dumb question, where do I go, what's the website?
The slides will be posted too,
Well,
or?
slides, and more importantly, I'm looking at trying to
Okay.
get into the
Yes,
certification.
There's two ways, bcorporation.net or bimpactassessment.net if you wanna go straight to the assessment. bcorporation.net will take you to the whole ecosystem.
What's in there, can I find that?
And Alan, I'll send you a special portal that.
Cause you know I need handles, thank you.
No, cause I'm working multiple angles up here, Alan.
I heard a statistic that I thought was really interesting, and Kim can probably talk about this, but that there's more than 50,000 companies have used this free assessment, but there's probably 3,100 companies that have certified right now, is that right? And so even for my boyfriend who I mentioned, he decided he wasn't gonna continue certification this year, but he'll probably pick it up back next year. So I wanted to clarify that too.
And I love what you said about, like, I have a small business, nonprofit arm, and I've always struggled with whether we should just be a nonprofit or be a for-profit, for an LLC right now. And so I love learning about this because, first of all, I've already implemented a lot of what you guys have said, And so kind of like you said, it's just sort of getting credit for what you're already doing in some cases. But also it just gives you this framework of, I wouldn't even have thought of some of the things that you guys mentioned, like, oh yeah, we can do that, or we can work towards doing that next year. This is so helpful.
I have,
Oh, I just wanted to know, does it increase your points at all if you're working with other businesses that are already B Corp certified?
Yes, it's a broader question that,
Okay.
do you prioritize vendors do you have a vendor policy? Do you prioritize I don't know the exact word, but do you prioritize vendors that are using some sort of external third party to verify their mission driven purpose, including B Corps, yes.
Do you get points for getting word out that you're doing this, that you're making these changes, like, you know what I mean there?
Yeah, I don't know that it's like lead in that sense. I don't think you do.
No, but you do get credit for things like, do you do work in your industry to shift your industry?
yes,
Which is kind of using your voice to kind of make change, but are you using your brand platform to tell your own stories? You don't get credit.
It'd be nice, I mean, you guys' stories, thank you for being so honest about it, I mean, if you guys keep doing that, you're gonna have such an influence, thank you.
I know what's so cool is that like now I wasn't familiar with your companies before now. I'm following these lovely ladies in their companies, like on social media, so it just seems like so much good.
I had I've written down a couple of things that we did actually, so you can have some practical ideas of things that where we earned points and that we later reported on in our first corporate responsibility report, or what we're calling social and environmental responsibility report. We have just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that sound like a good use of our time? No more questions? I need reading glasses, I have an eye appointment next week. So you get points for measuring the diversity of your team. At Banyan, we have 65% of our managers are female. We're like, wow, that's cool. We hadn't really measured and thought about that before. Most of our managers now have an area of responsibility written in their job descriptions that concern social and environmental impact. We were doing these great things, but who was being held accountable? And now we're actually, we're in our 2020 planning phase, and every department has a social and environmental line written into it. So that's pretty cool, and that's changed. We launched our first 401k matching program. We've been talking about doing it for 6 years or more, and so we were motivated by the positive point earning opportunity, and that was one that we could earn a big chunk of points. So we started doing that. We launched as far as philanthropy, we launched a community grant fund. So we're giving out grant dollars now to people across our customer community that are making a difference in their local communities. So that's been really cool. Something we talked about doing for years also. We made sourcing environmentally friendly packaging and shipping materials more of a higher priority, which Aaron Johnson's been leading. It's a challenging process, but we've elevated that as a priority within our company, just to reduce our own carbon footprint. And then finally, one of the things is, as I mentioned, this year we created our first public-facing corporate responsibility report, and it's on our website. And that's a great thing to start doing, whether you decide to become B Corp certified or not, because it's kind of like a report card, and there's a lot to celebrate. Like, we all went out for wine after that and shared what we loved most about what we reported on, at least in the Oregon office. So just a few things that are practical there that you can earn points for. Oh, and the living wage thing. That was something we had never, as a company, we hadn't known about living wages, as opposed to minimum wages. I thought that's a great, that'll spend some time learning about that. And because, so it depends on, you're paid more depending on the cost of living in certain areas, and MIT has a calculator that helps you decide, get those numbers, and we increase salary or hourly wages here in Albuquerque for 2 or 3 of our employees that weren't making a living wage, so that felt good to do. And now our HR manager looks at that every year and ensures that we're paying living wages.
Yeah, so like New Mexico, for family, what they use is like 1671. Just give you guys a semblance, and for a single person, it's quite a bit less.
And it changes every year.
Just a quick question, when you do a stakeholder analysis, often government is one of the stakeholders. So your living wage point really raised a question in my mind, like, if you were a company that supported, let's say, the city of Albuquerque passing a living wage, would you get a point for that? Is there a place where there's other stuff that you can put in to say, hey, we would like to get credit for encouraging the entire community to have a living wage? Would that be under community?
Yes, yep, it's, in my opinion, it's not a high enough point scoring area because the impact of business on impacting policy, especially given some of the things we're facing, is really important right now, but my guess is in the next version of the assessment, which comes out in 2022, it'll be in an even higher point scoring, but right now you can get points for that kind of advocacy.
All right, thank you all for being part of this wonderful discussion. So as I said, I will post these slides and maybe some more resources or links to other websites on our management.unm.edu B Corp's page. So please check that out after the session and hope to see you around throughout the day. Thank you so much.
I just wanna say thanks to Kim for coming too, because, and the amazing work of B-Lab, that they provide this amazing free assessment. It's just such, it's an amazing tool, and I know at Banyan, we are privileged, like, find it a privilege to participate and to pay the certification fees. It's a nonprofit, you can write it off, if you're 1% for the planet, they're 1% for the planet community, and you get, use that budget for it's just a great, like, we're really honored, and we wanna make sure that we're doing our part to help inspire more companies to certify or at least use this amazing free assessment. So just deep gratitude to B-Lab and all the work that they're doing. It is a privilege to be part of the community.